I was going to do a residential, and I wanted to do it different. I always liked to do like double high ceilings and like floating floors, luxurious. Back in 2005, it was a rundown area. There was nothing there.
And there is what? What area is this?
Today, it's called Prospect Heights, which is a beautiful, beautiful area.
Very nice.
But at that time, it wasn't. So why I thought that I could build luxury here and get people to come is something I don't have an answer why.
So you had no real estate experience?
Zero real estate experience.
So you were just inspired. You were inspired by the community.
I was inspired I was watching how the buildings were going up, and it was something that I really wanted to do. And since I always was preaching this to everyone, like go for what you like and push yourself, I decided, let me do this, let me try.
Good morning, everybody. We are back on the Confronting the Impossible. It's my podcast show, Leo Jacobs, and I'm the host. And we're bringing you the good, the bad, and the ugly about the real estate market, specifically in the restructuring field. I have a very special guest today, Eli Karp, the founder and CEO of Hello Living. I mean, it's no surprise that Hello Living has had its ups, had its plateau, and had its downs. And I'm really, really excited to hear about what it is that the future looks like for Hello Living. But I guess before we get into that, I wanted Eli to introduce himself. So Eli, tell us a little bit about yourself. Thank you so much for joining my podcast. And I can't wait to get into it. So let's go. Let's talk about it.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
It's nice to be here. Okay, so in 2005, I was still, I was doing special ed teaching. I was driving from Borough Park to Williamsburg, and most of the times, there was a lot of traffic, so I was driving through the streets.
You were a teacher?
Yes.
You were a teacher? You have a master's degree in
I never reached the master's because I started shifting into other things, but that was my goal, and that's what I started doing. I loved working with attention deficit kids.
Oh, wow.
Kids that were smart but weren't able to sit and focus, and I had like some tricks how I worked with them to help them sit straight and focus, and by doing that they were able to learn better. And as I was driving back and forth, and part of the things that I was always telling the kids and trying to motivate them, that in life you have to push yourself. If you like doing something, whatever you feel you have a passion for, you have to push yourself. This was always my
mantra.
Yes. And while I was driving every day back and forth, I used to pass Pacific Street there, Washington Avenue.
This is in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, and the place was always like run down. One time I'm driving through this giant sign. Massynackle used to have these mega signs for sale.
Shout out to Bob.
Yeah. And, I called up and I asked them about the property, what they have and what they're offering. And interesting, this was something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to create. I loved creating things, making things happen.
So give us some context. What year is this?
So this is back in 2005.
2004.
End of 2004.
You're a teacher.
I'm a teacher.
In Brooklyn.
I was doing like privately with a few kids at a time. And, everything was good.
And you got into like real estate? You were driving up and
I decided, I always wanted to do real estate. Let me start off with one small project. Let me see how it goes. Let me get my feet wet into it. I took the little money I had. I took monies actually that came like the checks to pay off interest, the cards, credit cards. I put together a little deposit and I made an offer. I didn't know how to negotiate then very well. And I made an offer. I said, I only have $25,000 to put down for the deposit, and I needed $100,000 for put on. I said, give me 30 days to bring the remainder of the money. And then I went around pitching it to people and explaining
What is the it?
I put together like...
What was your first property? Tell me about that.
So the first property, yes, the first property was 925 Pacific Street. And the company, we decided to call it Pacific Blue. And
Is residential, commercial?
And I was going to do a residential, and I wanted to do it different. I always like to do like double high ceilings and like floating floors, luxurious.
Was it a residential development or a commercial?
It was a residential area that was, as I said, like back in 2005, it was a rundown area. There was nothing there.
And there is what? What area is this?
So today it's called Prospect Heights, which is a beautiful, beautiful area.
Very nice.
But at that time, it wasn't. So why I thought that I could build luxury here and get people to come is something I don't have an answer why. But I believed if you because they were selling on 4th Avenue, like 5-6 blocks down, they were selling for like $500-$600 a foot then.
Okay.
And they projected on this area, Prospect Heights, that it would be around 300 to 400. But I decided if I'm going to build something very unique and different, I'll be able to get the people from 4th Avenue to come here, pay a little bit less, probably around 500, and get so much more. I went to the open houses that they were having, and I looked at their units, and I said, I can design them so much better, so much more cleaner. It's hard for me to look back now and understand how, like, what made me, I've never done this before.
So you had no real estate experience?
Zero real estate experience.
So you were just inspired. You were inspired by the community.
I was inspired how, I was watching how the buildings were going up, and it was something that I really wanted to do. And since I always was preaching this to everyone, like, go for what you like and push yourself, I decided, let me do this, let me try. And I got into the first project. I didn't even get started, and I started with an architect. This was like, he was also a new architect from Austria. And I told him, I want something very different, the units itself. I don't want the fancy buildings that people make, but I want the units to be very open, very spacious. And he was designing things for me, and I was like playing around. It was such an enjoyment to design something on sketches and then see it like how it comes on paper and a plan and how it turns into 3D on the computer.
So this is exciting to you.
So exciting.
But wait, you borrow money from a credit facility?
I borrowed money from literally credit cards to go into it to get started. And
How much was it?
The original amount that I took out was $25,000. With that, I tied up the property, and then I started going around to investors, and I put myself together like these loose leaves with these plastic things and put the papers in, and I designed in sketches and numbers.
Booger and toenail, essentially.
And again, back in 2000, I didn't even have the proper spreadsheets. I remember going to one of the investors and showing him I'm going to build, and I'm explaining him how, and I'm going to build. It's not just this building. I want to make the whole neighborhood. I want to change the neighborhood.
Yeah, these big visions.
And this guy looked, and as I'm like twirling the pages in front of him, trying to get him excited, like, and he's looking at the end, I ask him, so do you want to invest? And he looks at me and he says, like, I don't know about this project, but I am so excited the way you are excited about this.
So passion sells.
Exactly, that I want to invest in you. How much money do you need? And from there it started. And once I got started, and I was dealing with the architects and then the engineers, and
Was it stressful for you?
The opposite. It was such an enjoyment. I loved anything that had to be creative or that you have to come up with a solution to solve a problem. Right. It was what got me going.